Hi everyone, my name is Axel, and I'm a Mexican designer in my final year of Bachelor's Illustration and Visual Media. So far, I've been learning about student issues through my time in London as delegate in the National Union of Students, which is an international forum for campaigning democratic solutions. Also, as my time as president of sports in the student union, and finally as founder president of the club UAL Swimming. This year, I am running for Union Affairs Officer. I believe my experience in these roles has equipped me uniquely to have a running start this following term. Just about me personally, I do love music, I love jazz, I love this university, and I love the people in them. That's me.
Great, thank you. We'll move on to Daniela. So I'm going to spotlight you, Daniela. Cool.
Thank
And
you.
once you start, you'll have your 1 minute.
Okay, thank you. Hi everyone, my name is Daniela Commey. I am the school rep at CCW Art and the leading NUS delegate for this year. I am standing as your Union Affairs Officer because I believe I'm a capable leader to be a representative on the matters facing us today, that being the cost of living crisis. I have personally been affected by this. My first year I actually dropped out, but I didn't give up and I'm back now. And I believe everyone should have that chance to really experience their education to the fullest, like regardless of the financial hardships. So I have been continuing to campaign on these issues and I will continue to do them this year. Thank you.
Great, thank you. We'll move on to our next candidate, which is Ellie.
Hi, I'm Ellie Short. I'm going for the Union Affairs Officer position. I'm actually in this role currently, so I'm rerunning. A lot of my priorities this year are around like advocating for disabled students, minority groups. I really want to help increase mental health support within the university and assist with cost of living crisis. But most of all, I want to do the things that are most important to the students. So that's something I'm willing to like change over the year. Something we're always willing to listen and find out what's new, what the new issues are, and all those things. And yeah, I'm really passionate about being the voice of the students, so I'd really appreciate your votes.
Great, thank you. And next, we'll pass on to Neto.
Hi, I'm Neto. I'm taking a master in publishing. I graduated last year in journalism. I have been at LSCC for the past 3 years, working as a rep for 2 years, peer mentoring, change maker, ambassadors, and everything to learn how the institution, at least here, works to better represent the students and the needs of everybody, including the mature students, the foreign students, or the LGBTQ, which I'm all part of them. So with your help, I hope I can put in practice lots of what I learned in the last few years. And that's me.
Great, thank you. And we'll move on to Olan as our next candidate. So once you're ready.
Hey, my name is Olanrewaju Odunowo. You can call me Ola for short. I'm an international student from Nigeria, and I'm currently the NUS delegate for Black and minority, I believe, students, Asian, I think, yeah, Asian. And I'm running just because I believe that universities should work for students. Every student should have a memorable time at university. I'm also running because of my own lived experiences as an international student, a person of color, as well as someone who has caring responsibilities. I understand the challenges a student face, especially with the cost of living and cost of study as well. And I'm just running to work together with the uni and the rest of students to create an environment for all students. Thank you.
Great, thank you. We will now move on to the questions. We'll start with the same running order for the first question, and then we will move on from that. Great, so we'll start with Axel for our first question. And the question is, what do you think are the main issues facing UAL students?
After talking thoroughly with a number of students from my college, the main issues students face can be summarized with connectivity issues that lead to decreased growth in our communities. People's expectations are not being met yet, but I fully believe we can surpass them. We need to exceed their expectations so that our students can dare to dream. And every time we don't achieve this, it limits what students think is possible in our organization. Our communities are absolutely brilliant, but at some point they just stop growing exponentially. And it seems that collaboration amongst our teams is the greatest opportunity in our reach since the pandemic. The next step after solidifying a club or team culture is to go out to the world and present it to others.
Oh, I'm going to
So,
have to interrupt
yeah,
you there,
that's
Axel. Sorry.
Thank you. Great. So we'll move on to Daniela to answer the same question. I'm just going to spotlight. Great. Daniela, same question. What do you think are the main issues facing UAL students?
Well, just depending on the cost of living report that has come out by the Arts SU, I would definitely say the cost of living crisis, which has negatively affected 80% of students mentally. And I've been wondering, how can art students be creative when they are anxious about what to eat or where to lay their heads at night? I feel like the financial crisis limits our scope of creativity. And the two top priorities for UL students were commuting, and not everyone can commute from home because it's so hard to live in central London. It's hard to afford that. And I believe these are the problems that we should deal with, especially this year.
Great. Thank you. We'll move on to, just going to spotlight real quick. And then we'll move on to Ellie to answer the same question. What do you think are the main issues facing UAL students?
I also think there's cost of living crisis currently. UAL's in London, which is one of the most expensive places in the UK. It's also an art school where we have to buy most of the materials, projects ourselves, and it's quite costly. That's without needing basic essentials and everything. So this is something that I think is most important to work on as a current issue.
Great. Thank you. Just going to spotlight Neto again. And same question. What do you think are the main issues facing UAL students?
Well, I think there are a lot, to be honest, but it's normal in a size, an institution of this size, right? But one that is very dear to me is about the connectivity and to help all the students to find the opportunities that are available, because we are bombarded with so many emails and we miss lots of opportunities during our time here, but also for the future.
I think you're on mute, Shane. You might need to unmute.
Oh my God, I am. Sorry about that. So sort of doing the same thing. What do you think are the main issues facing UAL students?
Okay, thank you. I think there are three key things. I did a quick survey. One is the cost of living and cost of study, more cost of living actually. Second one is for minority students or for international students, just belonging really. And then the last one is people care about like what happens after study, jobs and career paths and all of that. I think we need to tackle these issues head on. And I'm going to be focused on doing that, working with students and staff members.
Great. Thank you, everyone. We'll move on to the next question and we'll shift down the running order. So we will be starting with Daniela.
Okay.
So the second question is, what is the first campaign or project you want to work on if elected?
I would like to work on solutions for commuting. I was at the AMM meeting, and those of you that were there, we heard about the UK Housing Guarantor Fund scheme. A lot of other universities have this, such as Goldsmiths and UCL, and I believe that we should have this too. I feel like this would support students who are not able to secure a place in UAL halls because of socioeconomic backgrounds, and it would also bring awareness to student homelessness. And I also believe that UAL should have more affordable halls. These are the things that I would be working on if I became the Union Affairs Officer. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. I'm just going to swap that. And then Ellie, same question. What is the first campaign or project you want to work on if elected?
So I want to stop the hardship fund from being based on like parental income. I think a lot of people get very low maintenance loans because of their parental income, and that's not always reflective of like their own financial position. So I want to help make it more based on a person's financial position rather than their parents, because I think it's affecting a lot of students and it's not totally fair.
Great, thank you. Neto, I'm just going to spotlight you, and same question, what is the first campaign or project you want to work on if elected?
Well, I think it's continuing to lobbying with the UAL to improve the safe spaces we have for everybody, while supporting the new elected members and the other reps with their projects, because this, from what I saw, is an important part of the role, right? So I really want to ensure they can count with me to improve all those things.
Great, thank you. Olan, same question. What is the first campaign or project you want to work on if elected?
Thank you. Definitely very, very clear. It's the cost of living, really. And the very first thing is to look at how we can further reduce the cost of services around campus for students as reasonably as possible, and also look into other initiatives around cost of living, of commuting, of transporting, accommodation, and stuff like that for students. But definitely looking at how to alleviate the financial pressure on students.
Great, thank you. And Axel, I will be passing over to you for the same question, just going to spotlight. What is the first campaign or project you want to work on if elected?
Lovely. So my driving themes are providing more professional and social opportunities to students to help empower and train them. Spaces like the dark room should be places that we can actually do some collaboration and seek projects. So essentially, we do physically what UAL Creative's Instagram accounts are already doing online. We help bridge a gap with those who want to collaborate, but in a physical space, for them to have call-outs and conversations about their projects. Essentially, re-engaging all the common spaces with common language so that they can have common goals.
Great, thank you. And thank you everyone for answering that question. We're going to move on to the third question. And just like before, we'll be moving down the list. So we'll be starting the third question with Ellie. So the third question is, how will you work with UAL staff to develop a collaborative and effective relationship whilst holding them to account?
So I think it's about being like friendly, but also remembering that you're the voice of the students. So it's important to keep that good relationship, but always make sure you've got facts, and that you always do hold them accountable. And like, I think I've really developed these kind of skills being chair of the trustee board this year, being quite objective and like being able to tell people like how things are more and that kind of thing.
Great, thank you. We'll move on to Neto for the same question. How will you work with UAL staff to develop a collaborative and effective relationship whilst holding them to account?
Well, in the past 3 years, I built an amazing relationship, at least at LCC, with the reps, deans, and a lot of members of the staff. With during my all roles, like working at receptions, meetings with the teams and change makers, or peer mentoring. And I think it's quite important. I continue this throughout other colleges, and I'm sure like it is. I can't. Sorry, yeah, I messed it up a bit.
Great, thank you. We'll move on to Olan for the same question. I'll just spotlight you very quickly. Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. I already have great relationships with some staff members, so that's good. I think the key thing for me is to make them see that listening to students and attending to their needs is actually good business. It boils down to why are we here at the end of the day? It's about the student, and when we create an environment that works for them, we in turn look good. Overall, it's good for profits, good for revenue. I think that's how I would definitely approach it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. And we'll be moving on to Axel for the same question. Just going to spotlight. How will you work with UAL staff to develop a collaborative and effective relationship whilst holding them to account?
Great. So UAL staff and officers must be in constant communication to each other and create solid common language. Common language is the most valuable thing we can seek with this new generation of student union, so that we all exist in the same page and our efforts are all run in the same directions. And to do this, we all rely on the feedback of students. So my top priority will be to empower these students to raise their voice and keep us on track.
Great, thank you. We'll be moving on to Daniela on this question as well. So how will you work with UAL staff to develop a collaborative and effective relationship whilst holding them to account?
Thank you. Half of the UAL students feel that UAL is not doing enough for the cost of living crisis. And now that we know the report is out, the staff at UAL would have a better foundation that we can build upon together. That is the knowledge and the understanding of the student experience throughout UAL. I also believe because of this, there's a greater expectation of what is next. And as your Union Affairs Officer, I will proactively work alongside UAL staff to give students the transparency of the steps we are taking in response to the survey, including the possibilities and the limitations.
Okay, thank you.